This story is about how a nomad girl from Somalia ran away from her family at the age of 13, became a world-famous top model, and began to fight against the barbaric tradition of female circumcision. This 13-year-old girl's name is Veris, which means desert flower. She was born in a nomadic family in Somalia and lives in the sands. These places have not yet reached civilization. People there graze goats, ride camels, cook on a fire, and spend the night in tents. The action is transferred several years ahead. Becoming an adult, Veris found herself in a big, noisy London. She walks into a local mall and she's about to get dressed, but a saleswoman thinks that she wants to steal it and threatens to call security. The girl runs away. They then accidentally collide in the toilet. Turns out that Veris has been living in London for 6 years, but still has not learned English. She does not want to go back to Somalia at all. But here in the West, she has no one, and she has absolutely nowhere to go. Veris tries to meet the saleswoman as she leaves. The girl has to spend the night on the street and look for food in garbage cans. Once on the bus, she again meets the same saleswoman from the shopping center. The girl's name is Marilyn. She dreams of becoming a dancer, but she cannot pass any casting. Marilyn agrees to take Veris into her boarding house and advises her to get a job. So Veris becomes a cleaner at a fast food restaurant. One day, a famous photographer pays attention to her and gives her his phone number, but she does not answer. A few weeks pass. Veris continues to live in a boarding house, work as a cleaner, and also intensively learns English. One day, the friends go to a disco. Veris meets an attractive man named Harold who clearly sympathizes with a strange girl and invites her to dance. But for some reason, she's frightened by the touch of a stranger and runs away. Veris returns home, but there her friend Merlin spends time with a man. An African woman is simply shocked to see this. She has to wait at the door while her friend sends her lover out. Veris believes that Merlin is doing badly, and, in her opinion, the right woman is only a circumcised woman. But the English woman cannot understand what she is talking about at all. Then Veris lifts her dress and shows what's in her crotch. It's an ancient custom in Somalia for little girls to cut off everything there and then sew it together so that their husband opens it on their wedding night. 3 years old, Veris thought that they do this to all women in the world, but Marilyn tells her that no one here does this. She's horrified by her friend's revelations, and they cry and hug. At work in a cafe, Veris meets again the photographer who once gave a phone number. Marilyn advises her to definitely take part in the photo shoot because she can earn a lot of money, and also gives her a note from Harold, a guy from a nightclub who left his address in New York. Suddenly, Veris becomes ill. She's in severe pain. Her friend helps her get to the hospital. The African woman is examined by a gynecologist and says that she will not be able to return her to what it was, but will help her to no longer feel pain. The doctor sees that the girl does not understand English well and asks for someone who speaks Somali. Nurse Mal arrives. The gynecologist asks him to tell the girl that she was sewn by a real butcher and she urgently needs to have an operation. But the Somali nurse tells Veris something completely different. He shames her for showing herself to a white man in skates, that if she does the operation, he will betray his people and his origin because, in his opinion, no one should interfere in their traditions. Veris only cries after these words. Actions are transferred to a few years ago when Veris was a 13-year-old girl and lived with her family in the same old desert when her critical days begin for the first time. Her father introduces her to her future husband, who paid 5 camels for her. The next day, Veris should become the 4th wife of a terrible old man, but the girl does not want to put up with such a fate, and with the tacit consent of her mother, she runs away to her grandmother in Mogadishu. For several days, Veris wanders through the desert barefoot, rubbing her feet in the blood. Only with some miracles, she gets to his distant relatives alive and unharmed. Actions are transferred to many years ahead. Veris undergoes surgery to fix what was once done to her, and then comes to the photographer who left her a phone number and a diner. The girl is resolute and immediately asked about the gunner. She's put on makeup and she participates in her first photo shoot in her life. Veris is gradually becoming a successful and sought-after model. She is offered work all over the world, and at this time her friend Marilyn fails another casting dance project. Veris give her an expensive watch and ask her to teach her how to walk in heels. But the eyeball collapses when a modeling agent comes and says that Veris has been fired because her passport has long expired and she should be deported to her homeland in Somalia as an illegal immigrant. The boarding house worker offers various fictitious marriages so that she can stay in England, but this is not yet required because the agency manages to get fake documents for Varys. She goes to work in the US, but she is detained by the police at the airport. Actions are transferred to many years ago when Varys was a 13-year-old girl. Her grandmother believes that Juarez should go to the United Kingdom because her mother's sister is the wife of the Somali ambassador in London, and she just needs a housekeeper. Grandmother believes that the girl will be safe in Europe and advises her not to go back. Varys boards the plane and says goodbye to her native country. In London, the girl works at the Somali embassy and does the dirtiest work: washing, cleaning, washing dishes. A few years later, a coup takes place in Somalia, and the state calls on its citizens to return back. All the embassy employees go home, but Varys stays because no one is waiting for her in Somalia. Her family will never forgive her for escaping. The action moves forward several years. Varys is released from custody as bail was made for her. The girl is given a limited residence permit, but another violation is warm, and she will be deported. Varys urgently needs a work permit, so she decides to accept the offer and enter into a fake marriage. She settles in the same apartment with her newly made husband so that the migration service does not suspect anything. The girl returns to work as a model. One day, during a session, the photographer asks her to undress, and Varys is embarrassed completely naked in front of the camera. Her life is getting better, but her relationship with her fictitious husband is nowhere worse. A man confesses his love to her and tries in every possible way to achieve intimacy. The girl is in despair and is even thinking of returning to her homeland, but fortunately, she will soon be given an indefinite residence permit, and now she's free from marriage ties. While filming in New York, Varys remembers a note from Harold, a guy from a nightclub. She visits him but discovers that he already has a girlfriend, so she runs away in tears. Varys became a world-famous top model. Even a film was made about her on the BBC. One day, she gives another interview where she was asked to talk about the day that changed her life. Varys recalls when she was 3 years old, her mother took her to the desert where the local witch doctor circumcised her. The procedure was carried out with an ordinary razor in complete unsanitary conditions. Despite the heartbreaking cries, everything was cut off from the girl and then hastily sewn up, leaving a hole the size of a match head. As a child, Varys miraculously survived, and then she experienced hellish pain all her life. This terrible story moved the journalist to tears. Many publications wrote about the Somali girl. Harold read the article and is now looking for a meeting with her. Varys comes to the UN meeting and tells the whole world from the podium about the terrible barbaric circumcision procedure that mutilates women in Africa and other countries. Thanks to Varys, female circumcision was officially banned in many states, but the terrible ancient traditions continue to exist today, and here the movie ends. Thank you.